All right, welcome to eCom Raw Reality episode 22, and in this one we'll talk about vibe marketing. And why do we do that? Well, because nowadays it is about the vibe as well, and you're probably seeing this one that I also don't have a very high energy vibe just because of the weather. It's pretty cold right now, and also I have so many things in my head that the vibe just isn't there, right? But the question is, what is vibe marketing? Where does it come from? Because recently it has become more of a popular term, even though if you'll search about it, you might find maybe just a few videos, a few definitions about it. But it is coming from vibe coding. So that's where it originates from, and actually from this year, 2025. And to explain it simply, because actually I'm not a coder, so with my basic understanding, it is about using AI and basically going with the flow to some extent, meaning that you are talking with a computer, letting it actually do the work for you, right? And you are actually thinking less. And when we transition that to some extent with vibe marketing, I think this is where we can actually use it in multiple ways, but primarily it does have to do with the fact that you use AI to multiply what you actually do on your own, alone. And the thing is that, of course, when we talk about marketing, we talk about a bunch of things. We talk about copywriting, we talk about design, we talk about feelings primarily, right? Because this is actually the goal of marketing, to get someone to take an action. And in order to do that, you have to attract attention through colors, through copy, through whatever you can think of. Smell, if it's something in real life. So there are so many things that you can think of when you think of marketing in general, right? And I do think we are living in really good times overall, just because it is so easy to get in contact with anyone. You have AI to basically do a lot of things for you. Like, do you need to know copywriting? Not really. You can just ask ChatGPT, write me the most amazing copy. Do you know how to design? Maybe you don't, but you can ask ChatGPT, create me a Ghibli style image of something or something else. And of course, it won't be perfect. It won't be able to create ads for you and so on. But especially nowadays, if you know what you want and then you get some help along the way, which primarily comes through AI, then things definitely become much easier. So, talking about vibe marketing, I'm trying to think of what else to say in this one, because sometimes honestly we just need to keep it short and realize that it is also about the vibe, right? And the vibe might be different sometimes. For example, if you look at a brand, right, that's where you actually want the same vibe all the time, right? However, when it comes to people, to videos on YouTube sometimes, to, I don't know, Twitch streamers or whatever you can think of, sometimes you actually do want that human touch, that human emotion. And that's why sometimes you actually want something different. And I think this is normal, right? Because if you didn't want any kind of variety, then you would just eat the same thing every day. You would talk with the same people every day at the same hour, and that would bring 100% predictability, correct? Because you know what happens at 8 a.m., you know what happens at 9 a.m., you know what happens at 2 p.m., you know what happens at 9 p.m. So everything very predictable. And actually for most people in business, that's actually what you need to do. Have things as predictable as possible, but that's why in marketing sometimes the unpredictable works, because so many people are used to seeing something, right? Even from a brand, you pretty much know what you'll see from a Coke commercial. It might be different, but their goal is pretty much the same, like getting you into a feeling of being with family, drinking Coke, and this is basically their vibe, more or less, right? And I think we've seen it recently, probably if I'm not mistaken, the fact that Some bigger companies have tried to use AI for image generation, and then people felt that, right? It felt different all of a sudden because, this is something different. And sometimes when something is different, you either like it or don't like it. And this is normal, right? It's better to have a reaction than no reaction at all. It's better to have a negative reaction sometimes, or ideally a positive one, than having none. Because if no one cares, usually, especially nowadays when we live in the attention economy, that's actually worse. So we'll keep this brief, honestly, just because I think we've chatted more than enough already. It's around 6 minutes, right? So you can definitely pack a lot in around 6 minutes. And with that being said, if you enjoyed this vibey or not so vibey video, then you can leave a like, you can leave a comment if you have anything to share, because things are definitely changing. If you are investing in the stock market, you know that things are dropping right now, and you know that also in the future, in the next few years, we might have cars that drive themselves, right? Waymo, Tesla, so many others. So things will always definitely change, but at the end of the day, it's still like about how do we actually feel, and the feeling sometimes isn't necessarily tied to the actual quality of something. And what do I mean by that? Well, the fact that today we actually live a much better life than people 50 years ago. But although you live a better life than 99.5% actually of people, you probably aren't as happy as 99% of the people back then, right? Maybe not even 50, maybe not even 10, right? And that's because we just increase our standards, our expectations. So that's normal and all right, but we also need to be aware of that sometimes. But we'll not get into psychology right now, even though we should be talking about psychology fairly often because marketing is psychology. And with that being said, we'll end it for this one. If you haven't seen some of the last episodes, you can do it. And until next time, peace out.